So I have 100%ed Doom the Dark Ages as of I think 5 or 6 days ago. I've done everything. I've 100%ed all the levels, found all the collectibles, done all the challenges, the mastery challenges, yada yada yada. And I figured, well, maybe I should probably do. I should talk about it. What my thoughts are on the game compared to the previous games. It's not going to be a scripted review. It's going to be kind of off the cuff. I have some notes here, so it's going to be hopefully not too all over the place. But I just want to go over my thoughts on the game as a whole. Now, going into this game, I knew it was going to be really hard to top Doom Eternal because I think that game that's like a generational game. I know it's only 5 years old, which is kind of nuts to say, but I think that at this point it can be put up there in the pantheon of all-time great FPS games. And I know it's divisive still to this day, but I think that's a skill issue. I think the people that don't like that game are bad at it for the most part. I never understood the hate for especially some of the stuff that's like the puzzles and the platforming. I thought it was fine. I thought it was a good. It breaks up the endless arenas because one of the problems with Doom 2016 was it was just arena after arena after arena, and with Eternal they kind of fixed that where in between the arenas you have platforming, which I didn't find that hard. Some people did for some reason. I guess again, skill issue. I don't find the crawling and the monkey bars that hard to use, but whatever. That's a topic for another day. I've never made a Doom like a specific Doom Eternal video, but it's an amazing game. Um, but I knew Dark Ages was gonna. It was already facing an uphill battle, trying to be. But the thing is, I don't think they were trying to top Eternal. They didn't. This wasn't going to be Doom Eternal 2. They didn't. They already said they didn't want to do the same thing. They want to do something different with each game. If you want to play Eternal, play Eternal. But they kind of maxed out what they could do with that formula with Ancient Gods, especially Ancient Gods 1, but then 2 as well. So they wanted to move in another direction, which I applaud them for. So, but after playing Dark Ages, I think it's probably on par with 2016. Maybe a little bit. It's tough to say. I think I might have to replay all three of them again. I think Eternal's the best still. But what's going to be hard is ranking 2. Is that Dark Ages or 2016? I'm going to have to replay 2016 before I make that verdict. But maybe it's recency bias, but I think Dark Ages might be second best for me. Um, I loved how big the levels were. It felt more like classic Doom. And that's another thing is the gameplay, the new gameplay loop, having you more grounded. I found sprinting to be very strange. I don't know why there needs to be a sprint button because you can turn it off. You can turn on auto sprint. Just make that default. Just make movement speed fast. I don't understand why there is sprint. It feels like they're kind of like giving an olive branch to the normies, like the people that play Call of Duty, be like, "Hey, look, we got sprint too." But that's not Doom. There should not be sprint in it. Just make the movement speed fast. That's how the first two were, and the old ones. But like this game was definitely more like they said, focused on the what is it, the X plane, right? That's the ground is the X plane, right? And then Y plane is up and down. It's been a while since I've taken a math class. Um, so you're moving along that plane more, strafing, just like the classic games. It definitely felt more like classic Doom 1 and 2 and a little bit of 64. So I appreciated that. I don't want to pit it directly against Eternal because it's not trying to be Eternal, it's trying to be its own thing. That's where I think people are making the mistake trying to review this game is they're putting it directly up against Eternal when it's not supposed to be the same type of game. It's completely different. Yeah, it's in the same series, but it feels more like somebody described it as like Sekiro combined with Doom combined with uh, Returnal because it's got the bullet hell elements where you're avoiding projectiles, which was again always a thing in the classic games. Because if we're being honest with ourselves, Doom 2016 and Eternal played more like Quake 3 Arena, right? They were less Doom, more Quakey. This actually felt more Doom than ever before. But with these giant levels, I do think the game is less replayable because as I was going through the levels again, doing collectibles, I was starting to get a little bit bored because I've just for how long it takes to go through the levels. Not to say that big levels are bad on a Doom game, but I don't think they should never go open world. This is the biggest you should probably go for a Doom game. I don't Open world is a big mistake. It's the same thing that Gears and Halo did. I think it was a mistake for Halo especially to go open world because you are limited on the biomes you can see. You can't break it up with different levels. Gears of War, same thing. They didn't go quite open world. They kind of tiptoed in that direction with Gears 5, and I think they realized that was a mistake, and they're kind of backtracking now with E-Day. So I don't think they'll ever go open world. Some things are just fine with linear. Not everything needs to be open world. It's a trend that I think is okay if it dies, because if I'm being honest, the only people that know how to do open world correctly are Rockstar. That's just my opinion. I think they're the best, and they're the only ones that know how to do it correctly. I will bring up a couple of major quality of life features that this game is missing. And I know this wasn't a thing in the first two games, but it should be in this one. We really need the option to overlay a mini map in the top left corner. I'm sure the PC people are modding that in as we speak. They probably have already done it, but otherwise you're opening and closing that map like 100 times when you're trying to 100% a map or a level. It just You're opening it so often. It just would be cool to do like a Diablo style overlay map in the top left corner, even if it's really tiny. Like let us change the size of it. That would be really useful. And the other thing that's baffling, maybe they'll add it in post-launch any day now, is fast travel. Doom Eternal let you fast travel to points on the map, especially for when you're going back through it and 100%ing it. And this game is like at least twice, maybe 3 times, 4 times bigger than Eternal. The maps are so much bigger, and there's no fast travel. And it makes some of the backtracking a pain. Like, you want to get to... Because, like, some of these maps are so big that you do a dragon section, and then you do another gigantic map that's kind of like Siege, and then you do, like, a boss fight, all in the same level. And if you're missing one collectible and it's, like, in the boss fight, you gotta play through the first 2 parts just to get to that third part, or do something like Halo does. You remember, I think this started with 3, maybe it was Reach, but there's like Checkpoint Alpha, Checkpoint Bravo, Checkpoint Charlie, and you can jump in at certain points of the campaign instead of replaying the whole thing again. It just would be nice. As for the weapon selection, I think it's good. I don't know if it's as good as Eternals, but I mean, they're going again for something different. Like they said, these supposed to be ancient weapons. Having no weapon swap thing, I think is fine. Again, you were in the Dark Ages, so you just have 2 weapons per class, and you just hit X to switch between them. I like that. I like that they're basically all viable. You don't have to. I didn't mind the weapon switching in Eternal. I know some people complained about that, and they're like, "Oh, the game's too restrictive. You have to kill enemies a certain way and use certain guns." That's not even true. If you really want to, it'll be harder on you. But if you want to, you can probably kill everything with a shotgun in Doom Eternal. And it's more flexible than you think. For some reason, people think that game is more strict than it actually is, and that you have to do the things like it's the way it's set up. You have to follow the tutorials to a T, which is not true. But as for my favorite gun, ooh, that is tough. I don't even know what my favorite is because they're all pretty good. The gun I use the least, there's 3 I use the least, and that was the chain shot, the grenade launcher, and rocket launcher. I didn't use those as much. The ones I use the most are probably the accelerator and the super shotgun and the shield, I guess, as a weapon, if you can count that. But the shredder is pretty good. I loved all the different things you can modify the guns with. Although I'm coming up on the next thing I have written down is stuff about runes and how I did miss the traditional rune system that Doom 2016 introduced. I kind of missed that, having like the challenge runes and all that. That's just completely gone. It does feel like a less deep experience. Like it's not as deep. It's wider but not deep. Like I wouldn't say it's like, the saying like as shallow as a puddle, as deep as an ocean. It's not that bad. But the different things you can play around with in Eternal definitely, I think, beat this game. You got, I think, a good amount of things you can change on weapons. Like I said, with the Shredder, you can have like a pincushion ability where you throw the shield and it like explodes enemies and stuff. That kind of those little adjustments to weapons are cool. Being able to slow down time with the impaler, stuff like that is really neat. But the shield is the standout of this game. Like you do everything, like the puzzles and combat, all revolve around the shield, and it's a good gimmick. I mean, it is a gimmick, but I do feel like it's suited for this game only, and I don't think we'll ever see it again. But for this game, I think it works very well, and it's fun as hell to use. You do feel like Captain America at times. But yeah, I think overall a lot of stuff was simplified. Puzzles seem a little easier for the most part. There's a couple puzzles that fit really well with the spoilers with the Lovecraftian cosmic horror sections, which I will get to. That is my favorite part of the game. There is no platforming really. I mean, there is some, but it's not like the crazy monkey bars Super Mario platforming or jumps that if you miss you will just fall into space and die. None of that like in Eternal, which again I didn't mind. I loved the proper. I know this is divisive, but I loved the proper cutscenes. I understand that Doom doesn't have that much of a story. I know it does now. Nobody plays Doom for the story, but I appreciate the work that was put into the cutscenes, and they're really well done. And it kind of makes me sad we didn't get ones like that for Eternal. 2016, I think, works without them, but Eternal, I think, could have used them. But I think from now on, it's gonna be a mainstay in Doom, and you can skip them if you want. So like, the game doesn't, you're not really affected at all if you skip them. If you don't care at all about the story, you can skip them just like you could have skipped the codex pages in the previous two games. Now, the elephant in the room is the music, and although I really, really loved what Mick Gordon did for the first two games, that whole dispute that happened with him and Bethesda, it's a shame that they couldn't repair that relationship because I would have been fascinated to hear what his take on the Dark Ages music would have been. But these new guys, Finishing Move, I think do an admirable job. But again, when you compare it to Mick Gordon, it's kind of night and day. They still got some great tracks though, like especially the main menu track is really good. The music though is not as like in your face. Like in Eternal, it's constantly like just there, loud in your face while you're fighting. But in this game, sometimes it kind of goes away and the game gets quiet. Maybe if you crank up the music and you crank down the sound effects, it'll be better. But it's just not as pervasive as the past two games. It's kind of there's kind of quiet moments in the game, and it's maybe they just didn't write as much music. I know it's a couple hours of music. It's tried to stretch over. I think it's like, is it 3 hours of music stretched over like a 12-hour-ish campaign? So maybe they got to use it sparingly. I don't know. Maybe they just wrote less. I wish they had got Andrew Hulshult because he's like the guy to get, and he did the music for Ancient Gods, I think. Yeah, so he must be busy with the million other games he's composing for. But and another thing that I wrote down here was final bosses. Eternal having the 1-2 punch of the Con Maker followed by the Con Maker followed by the Icon of Sin was excellent. Great final bosses. I think they were much better than the Spider Mastermind in Doom 2016. These bosses are good. I think actually my favorite is not the final one because you have two. Again, we're going into spoiler territory. The game's been out for over 10 days now. We're spoiling the hell out of it, but people were they were kind of disappointed about the final boss. But I get it. Your actual final encounter with Azrak, with Prince Azrak, is the third to last level or second to last level, something like that. Because it says like have your final confrontation with him, but he doesn't die, and then you fight him again with a witch in the last level, and it's not as interesting. The fight before that was the big, much more complicated multi-stage fight, and then he evolves or whatever. And then your final fight with him is when he's depowered and like he's kind of a wimp. So I understand why people were like, oh, that was kind of lame. I think the best one, though, is the Creed Maker. You have a Creed Maker fight, and then you fight Azrak. Or no, right? No, I think it goes Creed Maker, first Azrak fight, second Azrak fight later, 2 levels later, I think, if I remember correctly. But the Creedmaker fight was the most interesting. I knew Doomslayer was going to kill him. And let me talk a little bit about the story. I think again, story's not that big of a deal in Doom. One glaring omission that I was kind of upset about is we got no reference to Doom 64. Like the start of the game, I would have loved the game to begin where where 64 ends, where you see him washing ashore, like or maybe even like we see like a redone cutscene. Well, there was no cutscene for it at the time, but do a cutscene where you have classic Doom guy fighting the mother of all demons, right? And he looks like his Doom 64 outfit, that outfit, and you see him get like teleported through time and space. You get like a Doctor Strange style thing where he's flying through dimensions, and he ends up landing on the shores of Argent D'Nur, just washed up in the water on the shores of Argent D'Nur, and you get to see like what happens from then to now, because you kind of just jump right in, and we still wanted to know that gap of what's there. We didn't really get to see that. I would have loved a more seamless transition from 64 to this game, but we didn't get that. Maybe we'll get a flashback in DLC. I would love that. I don't know. And the way this game ends, it doesn't lead right into Doom 2016, which I figured it wouldn't. I think we'll get 2 DLCs, and I think the second one will lead straight into 2016. Because, yeah, just don't leave any gaps. I think we should just start right there. I think we're going to get... So some fight's going to happen. We're going to end up... We have to know how we ended up in that sarcophagus and how they managed to get us in there. Because we kind of assumed Azrak would do that, right? Before the game came out. But no. We defeat him, and at the end of the game, it's kind of just like, he's still out there, and like he's like still kicking demon ass. But we don't see a direct tie-in to Doom 2016. But again, I feel like that'll happen with the DLC. Because then after the DLC, who knows where this franchise goes. That's a separate topic I will make in a different video of where I think Doom is going. Because I have some ideas. But some highlights of the campaign I absolutely loved. My favorite level was Spire of Narathul. When you go to that, what looks like an ocean planet, and the ocean like sinks and it makes this big hole, and you find basically Cthulhu in chains. The aesthetic of that whole level was awesome. Honestly, all the cosmic horror stuff, we knew about it because they put out a trailer before the game came out. It would have been nice to be surprised by it, but the trailers spoiled it, unfortunately, which is what happened with Eternal. They spoiled Icon of Sin. They should have never showed us Urdak or the Icon of Sin or the Khan Maker in those trailers. Same, and with this, we saw Cthulhu in that the final trailer, and then that PlayStation trailer came out and showed us way more. It's not really Cthulhu. It's called the Old One. They probably can't use the name Cthulhu because they don't have the rights, but we all know that's what he's supposed to be. And that moment was... the moment where you get him out was awesome, but those levels, just like the level design, was cool. It's totally my aesthetic. Like, all these, like, floating... This wasn't Spire of Narathul, it was a later level. I think it was Temple of Lomarith. You got floating pirate ships. They're all, like, encrusted with barnacles, and you got weird stuff happening where you're walking down a hallway, and it changes, and you turn around, and it changes again. That kind of stuff was nowhere in the previous 2 games. And then at that endless hallway where you just keep walking in circles, and then you realize you have to turn around. The room that you rotate, it kind of felt straight out of Control, the game Control. But it's very Lovecrafty cosmic horror, and that's my favorite part of the game. Because I think they needed somewhere else to go. We had Urdak. We needed some kind of new locale for the second half of the game, like they did with Eternal. So, delving into the cosmic side is really neat, and I hope the DLC delves more into that, because that feels like we can get a whole cosmic DLC. It'd be awesome. And I think my favorite cutscene, there's a lot of cool ones, but my favorite cutscene moment was when it looks like he dies, and you get a throwback to the Doom 2016 intro, which is awesome. They replay King Novik's speech when he's like, "You are rage. some brutal and blah blah blah, but they are worse. Rip and tear until you're. And when that happened, I'm like, wait, are we seeing the beginning of 2016? No, we're not. It was an homage though, because then he wakes up, he grabs that one demon and smashes it just like the intro. That was a little cool Easter egg. Less Easter eggs than I would have hoped. Like I said, I wanted a Doom 64, but it felt like there was very few, unless they were really well hidden. Just feels like less Easter eggs overall. One of my biggest criticisms is the game takes itself a little too seriously. Like the previous games kind of joked around more. There was moments that made me laugh out loud. There was really only one in this game. And it's when that priest is like telling him he can't go back on the ship of the dead or whatever, and he just shoots him with the shotgun. Like, that was the only moment that felt like 2016 or Eternal, but taking itself a little too seriously to me, I think. Maybe they will stop doing that with the next game because this was the Dark Ages and they want to be a little more serious, I guess. But the level design, the visuals all look amazing. id Tech 8 is incredible. That first level with the rain looks amazing. And I don't think I had a single frame rate stutter, which is incredible. And like the loading, don't ask me how they managed to, like, it's like near instant loading to a new level, and these levels are huge and they load like lightning fast. No loading between dragon section and like boss fight when you move. Like, it's nuts. Like, I wish Halo would use this engine. It needs to make Halo. Like, come on. We need Halo to go back to its glory days. And I think id could do that. But my favorite moment was when, like I said, he looks like he died. He's on the pile of bones. But later in that level, you get to drive basically the ship of the dead that like goes, that like ferries souls, or it's like the ferry from Sea of Thieves. So you ferry the souls of the dead. But he looks dead. He's got his face is burned off like that. In the stream that I did, I was like, what? When he's just a skull face because his face burned away. And he gets on the ship of the dead, and he just rams through the door. That was so cool. He rams through the door, gets back to the world of the living, and then priests bring him back. He just kind of, his body reforms in like a pool of blood inside of a sarcophagus, which looks like the one from 2016. Really neat moment. Probably my favorite moment of the game. But, I mean, that's kind of all I really wrote down for what I wanted to talk about. I don't really have much else to say other than if I had to score it, man, that's a tough, like, because Doom Eternal is like, it's like a 10, dude. That game is incredible. I love it. It's one of my, like, and I can go back to it whenever. It's so replayable. I do think this game is going to be less replayable because it's more story focused. It's more cinematic. I don't want to give, I think it's a 9. Yeah, like, I don't know if it reaches 9.5, but I think it's a 9. It's a step down, I think, from Eternal. But it does things so differently, and I think the gameplay is just as fun, but in a different way. It's not the same. It's not like Eternal fun. It's Dark Ages fun. That's the best way I can put it. So, yeah, and like I said, I'm going to make another video talking about where I think this franchise and id Software is going next. I know it seems kind of jumping the shark. The game's been out, what, 13 days, not even 2 weeks. But I blasted through it. I love this series. And I think this game, this trilogy now, this modern trilogy, is all of them are great. So I know I didn't make like a super like in-depth review where I analyze every aspect of the game. I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to have a casual conversation about what I liked, what I didn't like. It's definitely more likes than dislikes. It's the good outweighs the bad. There's not really much bad, I don't think. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Doom the Dark Ages. I've 100%ed it. So, looking forward to whenever they have DLC. I think we're gonna get it teased soon, maybe at the Xbox showcase. And I think just like Eternal, we might get the first one by the end of the year. Eternal, we got part 1 at the end of 2020, so that could happen. I hope so. But what did you think of the game? How far are you into the game? Let me know in the comments. And I will talk to you all soon. Peace out.